I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker and really looking forward to this session. We tried to choose someone who really understands the events industry and community and the value of that in terms of communicating with impact. And so our speaker today, Jason Maghanoy, is a media executive, storyteller, and speaker who helps organizations grow brands, build revenue, and communicate with impact. As group publisher at SJC Media, which is the largest and most award-winning magazine publisher in Canada, Jason leads Wonder, the company's experiential business, alongside iconic brands including those you'll know, Canadian Business, Maclean's, and Toronto Life. His work is at the forefront of content, spanning digital innovation and leadership, with a strong focus on what actually works in the real world. And I have had the pleasure of attending a number of his events, including the Canadian Business Innovation Awards, the Toronto Life Most Influential event, and more. Um, Jason is also an award-winning playwright. This rare blend of executive leadership and creative practice allows him to teach storytelling as a business skill, from crafting compelling brand narratives to leading teams, pitching ideas, and influencing audiences. He's also a mentor at Toronto Metropolitan University's Social Ventures Zone and previously on the TELUS Community Board in the GTA. You'll find Jason delivers engaging, practical talks with a really great conversational style and is an in-demand panel moderator who helps leaders, founders, and teams sell better, market smarter, and tell stories that truly resonate. Please join me in welcoming Jason Maghanoy. Welcome,
Thank,
Jason.
thank you, thank you. That's it. So that's the whole thing. I'm really thankful for that introduction. So, thank you so much, Teresa. And I'm just gonna quickly share my screen. Um, and you should be able to see what I'm sharing now. So, obviously, one of the things that we're going to be chatting about today is storytelling and how stories help build community and how does sort of building a community sort of help with things like culture. But really, it's about how do you make your stories resonate in an environment that we have right now, which is very, very sort of very technologically heavy, lots of intermediary on sort of like our human experience. And I'm going to sort of walk you through what that is. But, you know, first and foremost, again, like Teresa said, my background in business and media, I used to work at TIFF. I'm the group publisher at SJC Media. But I think a big thing about my profile is that I'm a playwright. My playwriting work and my theatrical work has really informed how I view storytelling now. And I think that it informs just how I approach everything, whether it be my family life to my business, etc. Storytelling is just a really important part of my identity, and it's an important part of what I do. So we're going to start off with right now. So we are telling stories in an environment that is like this. So, the amazing thing about being human is that we are awesome and that we do a lot of really incredible things. And there are so many different breakthroughs that have happened over the course of our history. And one of the sort of side effects of breakthroughs is that we're actually pretty skeptical of our own breakthroughs. So an example would be, the printing press. When that first came out, people were like, I'm not quite sure if people should have access to words or information. That seems pretty dangerous to me. Atomic bomb, obviously, we know how we feel about that quite extraordinary breakthrough and sort of an atomic future. I put Pokemon Go in here because I just found Pokemon Go and augmented reality to be quite interesting and seeing like groups of kids surrounding a church, not to go in, but to find a Pokemon. They weren't finding Jesus, they were just finding a Pokemon instead. And then that's Travis Scott on the upper left corner. He's performing a concert inside of Fortnite at the metaverse. And the last time I checked, the metaverse is actually not really a thing anymore. So our skepticism of our breakthroughs is very, very interesting. And then another thing that ends up happening with our breakthroughs is that we mess them up. I think the internet is a really good example. It is sort of where we're living in right now. A big question we have about the internet is that is anything even real on the internet? Cloudflare said that it is now the first time ever that there are more bots on the internet than humans, which changes the whole dynamic of what it even is, which is fascinating. And in a way, the trajectory for this incredibly important breakthrough is that it's turning into white noise. And a really kind of fascinating example of what the white noise is this. the internet is overrun with hundreds of millions of Jesus memes. And when you post them on social media, all the comments are bots interacting with the Jesus memes, being like, I totally love Jesus. And this is like one of my favorite Jesus memes. It's Jesus as a shrimp. So that's the internet, it seems. And we are now in the midst of another thing that also ends up happening with our breakthroughs is just the circuit, that sort of the circuit of all of them. And social media is a really good example. Obviously we all know this individual. The benefit of social media has been quite profound in terms of just the way it brings together communities, the way it's made an impact in some parts of our society, the way it's sort of transformed business. But obviously, we all know that social media has had some really profound harm. And I think that when we look back at this time, we might go, was this our new cigarette company? And it looks like, just some of the lawsuit that's happening with Meta right now kind of showcases, wow, like the extent of sort of the impact or the negative harms on our society. We're just sort of getting a glimpse of what those are right now, which takes me to AI. AI is sort of the environment that we're in now. It is the environment that will inform how we tell stories in the future. And as we all know with AI, it is just tons of transformation. There's incredible breakthroughs in medicine because of it, incredible productivity gains in business. Everyone keeps saying that it is coming. There's no way that we can stop it. It is coming. It is a boulder. It is a massive, massive thing. And it seems like it's going to be incredibly important to the future of our society. But I think that one of the things that we're encountering when it comes to AI and this technology is there is a massive trust deficit. These are the men who are at the forefront of holding the future. They're holding the future in their hands. They are incredibly unpopular. Alex Karp, in particular, has some of the worst approval ratings ever. Whether or not you trust these individuals to guide us into the future with sort of hope and aspiration remains to be seen. And in terms of just how we're viewing this, as of right now, we don't have that. Young people tend to not like AI CEOs. They have incredibly low sentiment, poor sentiment around them. And in addition to that, these are some of the memes you'll find on social media. But like, Dario Omadai keeps talking about how AI could end civilization, yet he's asking for $2 trillion to fund his IPO. Not sure if we want to fund that as a possible future. So this is the environment, and when it comes to sort of how we're telling stories. I put this in here as well, in terms of a use case and how people are interacting with this new technology. Recently the AI has created new viruses. Not quite sure how I feel about those new viruses. Hopefully they also created vaccines for these new viruses that they created. This was one of my first interactions with Gemini. I asked it, "Who am I? Who's Jason?" And it had no idea. I thought that was really amazing. I had to sort of continue to build my profile on the interwebs to be found on the internet. So hopefully I've done a better job of that. I asked ChatGPT to draw me, and it said, "What kind of style and where do I find an image of you?" And I said, "Search the web," and it did. Pulled from my Instagram and it pulled from some of the photos I had just hosting my events, and it created that guy. That guy's awesome. I think that's me running for Congress in 2050. So I really appreciate the effort there. So that's the technology. That's some of the interactions. And one of the things that's happening with just sort of technology being so ubiquitous in our lives, so ubiquitous in our society, is that it is a line. It is a line that sort of separates us. It's a line that sort of puts an intermediary on top of all of our experiences with each other. And I think a really good example of that is, a good example use case is just even searching for jobs or just trying to find work. I think a good example here is that people are using AIs to tell their story and write cover letters, and then companies are using AIs to basically reject these AI letters. So it's a bot to bot interaction, which is happening, which is unfortunate. Another really good example of the line in terms of the use case is in dating. I met my wife at a wine and cheese. But then obviously there's Tinder, a really good way for people to connect. It's a technology intermediary between two people. Instagram is another, probably the ultimate dating app. But in this case, you can know pretty much everything about someone's life before you even meet them. And now the line is literally just not even sort of facilitating the encounter with the human. That's Gemini. People are now dating their bots. And I think that's a really kind of fascinating use case. He actually just recently covered it in Toronto Life. This is Sarah Griffin. She has an AI partner named Sinclair. She is incredibly happy, very happy for her. So you want to tell a story, you want to talk about yourself, you want to create attention, you want to create edge, and this is the environment that we're in. You see this meme appear on LinkedIn basically once a year. Just showcase what happens digitally, on social, on the internet every minute. So you can see 200 plus million emails are sent every minute. It is a noisy, crowded, toxic, epic space. How do you stand out? What now? So now what do we do? How do we tell stories in an environment like this? And some of the things that I'm going to sort of share are just really, really simple. And I think that if you sort of take some of these philosophies, it could help you in the end sort of break through in an environment like that. So the first is lead with authenticity. I'm leading with this is my wife. She is a clinical psychologist. She's leading. The first thing you see when you land on her site is her. It is spoken to you in the first person. It talks about who she is, what her experience is, and how hopefully she can help you as you begin your journey. And the great thing about this authenticity is that it seems to work. She's the #1 rated clinical psychologist in Toronto on RateMD. Another really interesting thing is that there are so many different types of people, all walks of life, and finding a way to unify all the different personas that you have, just in terms of your storytelling, unifying them with values and unifying them within a story that sort of that everyone can relate to could be really cool. This is something that I really loved from Wealthsimple, which was just all these really interesting people, different walks of life and unifying all of their different experiences through one value in this case, or one story. In this case, it was financial wellness and literacy. So that's Jen Ag and Margaret Atwood in French Montana. Another really interesting thing is that if it's super noisy on the internet and it's just like, and you're seeing this a lot now, if it's super noisy, join the noise in a really sort of effective way. So clip all of your thought leadership. So in a way, you can be a part of the noise in a good way. And this is sort of an example of just some of the clipping that we're doing for our Moment podcast for Canadian business. Another thing which is really interesting in terms of how to break through is just give someone special the keys. So in this case, for social, we do things like takeovers, and the takeovers are powered by intimacy. So this is a really great thing that the National Theatre School did, which is where I went for playwriting. But they did this really kind of beautiful thing where one of the great moments of your life at that school is your graduating production. And they basically gave the keys to their social to the graduating students to show what was happening behind the scenes, rehearsal, dressing room, opening night presents, hugs, tears. Watching these young people sort of go through this process of coming of age was incredibly beautiful. And that's a really, really good way to sort of showcase some authenticity and intimacy in such a crowded, digital, AI-driven environment. Something else that's really important, I'm being old-fashioned here, and I'm saying this as a playwright, but I think it's making a comeback. I think you should go to the theater. There's something about seeing people live on stage and seeing communities convene together in the same space, breathing together. The amount of shared experience is just so vital, and I think it's something that we definitely need as we sort of continue to try to evolve our storytelling strength in today's environment. And then I think the final thing too is this. The internet is overrun with slop. It is just overrun. It sucks. It looks like shit. To be quite honest, when you're doing anything in storytelling, anything in marketing, always show real people. Show real people, show real things. That's actually going to be table stakes for us as we enter this incredibly transformative time. So once you sort of get the knack of storytelling, one of the sort of things that's really important about that is that storytelling creates community. And this takes me to my work at SJC Media and some of the things that we're trying to do there to create edge in this new digital environment. I talked about sort of the internet becoming white noise. We all recognize this when you turned on the TV and there was no channel that looked like this. It's white noise. This is this is the space. This is the engagement economy space. Uh, it is incredibly noisy. It's like, how do you figure out a way to find edge, stand out, get attention? What is the antidote to this? What is the antidote to this? And it is community. And the reason why is because it sort of cuts through to sort of these base things. One is We have a drive to be together. We have a drive to share stories. The stories that we share, that is how we create and build our culture. It is this idea of connection and the connection that we have with each other, the communities that we build. It is the absolute point of our life. And if we don't have that, we're probably going to be in a bit of trouble. At SJC Media, we are a magazine, we are a media company, the largest sort of magazine publisher in Canada. But when you're in sort of a white noise space, you need lots of types of edge. We're in the digital space, we're in the social space, we're in the affiliate space. We're doing all of those things you have to do in the digital environment. But moving into community, moving into events has been just a game-changing value proposition for us. And that has proven to be another way for us to tell amazing stories. So here's an example. Toronto Life is 60 years old. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary here. You can see a cover from the past and a cover from now. There's something really special about having the ability to just have longevity, legacy in an environment like this. We're still around. My hope is that we're going to be here for another 60 years. And one of the ways that we're doing that is we are pivoting to becoming a community business. So what does it mean? The problem is simple. You have to find attention and edge in that environment I showed, which is crowded, noisy, toxic. It's overrun with technology. And the way that we're trying to do that is with our bedrock values. And it's something that you should hold on to with your business, with your practice, with your life. But in this case, our values are simple. We're building something that we are proud of. We are working incredibly hard to protect our journalism. By protecting our journalism, we are holding on to trust. We are convening communities of people who really care about us and each other, and these communities evangelize on our behalf. So the headline is really simple: humans, human stories written by professionals. We're avoiding gimmicks, we're bringing people together, and we want to be a part of the nation building project that is Canada. Wonder is how we're doing this at SJC Media. It is our experiential division. And here are some of the great events that we've done over the course of our time. So that's Mayor Chow kicking off the Maclean's Idea Summit the year ahead. We had just incredible thought leaders talking about some of the big ideas that were going to be shaping Canada. Toronto Life hosts a really wonderful event called New Power Most Influential. I think if you can get a room where Maddie Matheson, Mayor Chow, and Nobel Prize winner Jeffrey Hinton are in the same room together, that conversation probably is pretty incredible. And the halo effect of convening this type of a community is incredibly impactful for a brand like Toronto Life. We love thought leadership. I think it's a really great vehicle to drive meaningful thought leadership and convene powerful audiences. In this case, we threw a big patient innovation summit talking about how AI was going to impact the future of healthcare with Maclean's in partnership with McKesson. And businesses really love doing this as well and convening the people they care about. This is an example of an event that we threw in partnership with Uber. We threw their 10th anniversary celebration earlier this year. So the fundamentals of the business are really simple. The great thing about event businesses, if you're exploring moving into this type of brand experience, is that they generate first-party data. It allows you to get an attributed audience. Clients pay a premium for that. Event businesses punch above their weight because they make money in a lot of different ways, whether it be sponsorship, ticket sales, content, membership, services. The great thing about sort of Wonder is that it's a Swiss Army knife services department. So the department can do lots of things, everything from strategy to project management. And because they can do a lot of things, the value chain inside of the service department is shorter. And it actually makes the department really fast, which is positive. And it is working. If you look at some of Wonder's top clients, those are our top clients. 7 of the top 10 relations we have in media host events with us. So obviously, storytelling is vital. It builds community, and community is another way for us to continue to tell these stories. But in the end, the ultimate story is the culture of your organization. So from storytelling to community, and the community is what powers your culture. And if you have a great culture, it also allows you to productize, iterate your business, try new things. So when it comes to community, community is an edge in today's sort of technological environment, but culture is absolutely everything now more than ever. And the reason is because all the same challenges I talked about at the beginning really affect your team. Technology is an intermediary on your team. It is really difficult to build culture across channels, especially if you're interacting with your team over Zoom, over text, over email. They're distributed. So, how does your team feel like a team when they're distributed? And it is a really low trust environment right now because of technology. This is an article we had in McLean's. Your boss is spying on you. So, how do we build trust in an environment like this now? And I think leadership is an incredibly important part of that. Storytelling is vital to leadership. Great leaders are awesome storytellers, and that's like a table stake. And the thing that they're really, really great at is they ensure that everyone is a part of the story. So whenever you're building something new and you look back at the creation myth of the thing that you built, everyone had a role. Everyone feels they had a role. Everyone is able to say they did something that they were super proud of. And that is just an incredible part of it. Not only are you a great storyteller, you have the ability for everyone to participate in the story that you're telling together. Another really great table stake for the best leaders is that they're really clear, regardless of the technology. Email, Slack, WhatsApp, Zoom, etc. There's lots of clarity across channels. They're very, very high level, so they're able to sort of be in the strategy 30,000 feet in the air, but they're also very comfortable in the details. Those are two very different contexts, and they're able to offer that context to people and make sure everyone has the context. And because there's so much context and people are really clear, regardless of all the technology stack that's sort of guiding or being the intermediary on your team, they're able to make really great decisions. So that's on the leadership front. But for young people, and I say young people, listen up, we're going to clip this. We're going to clip this and we're going to get this out. I still consider myself really early in my career, but some of the things that I think are going to be really important as you enter the workforce, as you enter, like entering, I love this, I use this term, which is like as you walk into the wilderness. In this case, the wilderness is just going to be full of technology, AI. It's going to be really, really hard to find edge, hard to tell your story, hard to craft your story. But here are some things that I think will be really, really important as you enter this journey. One, understand what you're walking into. This is some of the great coverage we've had in McLean's. And look at this, the case against typing. Executive function is in short supply. Companies replaced humans with AI and now they regret it. Can AI make us smarter? Like this is a pivotal moment. So ways to sort of like stand out, survive this particularly pivotal moment. It's this. Building a career in the age of AI will be very, very hard. But if you can think about these things as you start that journey, I think this will be helpful. One is AI agents are going to be everywhere. They are already ubiquitous. AI agents are the worst sometimes. They lie, they break things. That's an article in The Economist sort of exemplifying that. If you lead with kindness and empathy, which are again some really important human values, human things, I think that that could be very, very important. One of the things that's going to be also very important is be a Swiss Army knife. And I've used that term before, but try to learn, be very, very curious, try to learn to do a lot of things. For example, learn how to use AI, learn how to use YouTube, be a Swiss Army knife. And the reason is because if you're a Swiss Army knife, it'll make it easier for you to help people, which I think will be really incredibly important. Another really important part of this journey will be to own things. So own things wherever you land, finish things, and owning something and finishing something, that's the achievement. And I think that's incredibly important. And then finally, bringing it all together. You can't do it alone. So find your community, find people that you're simpatico with, grow together. And that's always a really exciting thing that happens. As you're growing together, create really great stories together. And in the end, tell them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, for this. Oh, I'm seeing the chat's incredibly compelling and inspiring right off the top. So thank you for that and appreciate some of the comments here. Jason, you really helped us see how building community helps power our culture and helps us evolve and innovate, especially in a world that is becoming more bot to bot, as you say. And really, we want it to be more human to human. So finding some of the opportunities within storytelling and connecting with each other to make that happen.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And we have time for a few questions here. I'm just going to do a quick look at the notes. There's a question about you touched on leadership and team and what your group is finding in terms of the power of events for building community. Is there something in particular that you look at when you're seeing was that event successful or not? I know you touched on some of the metrics,
Yeah.
but any insight there?
Yeah, so the main metric is that people went. So like if if I'm trying to sell an event and it's like, one person showed up, maybe I shouldn't have done that particular event, but obviously people going is a really important metric. I think the feedback that you get after, like, it's always this idea of like whenever someone walks into a room, there's so many different ways that you can probably get value out of that experience. So for me, it's always, did they find sort of, if it's thought leadership or the experience, did they find it sort of like a valuable use of their time? Were they able to connect or have a really meaningful connection with someone while they were there? Do they think about it a bit after they're done? Um, Hopefully, if you can hit all of those three things, that's the starting point of someone, hopefully down the road, being a future evangelist for you.
Hmm, great, thank you. There is a question about when discussing storytelling with others, how would you suggest we teach them how to get started? Because some people rely mostly on facts and not
Yes.
sure about a story.
So you probably noticed this, especially when you're doing, and it's funny, like I always ask this question in job interviews. It's the first question I always ask, but it's always a question of who are you? So that question of what's your story is actually a really, really good starting point. So one of the things that I discovered sort of like early in my career was that I would go into interviews and whenever people would ask me that, I would really struggle with that, mainly because I didn't know what I was doing. But then as I went along, it became very clear that there's this sort of one through line of what I'm doing at these different places. And the one through line was I often found myself at organizations that were in the midst of change. And as someone who wanted to come in and be a change agent, but also I have the ability to absorb change. But in the end, it was just this idea of that's what really gets me going. I really want to be able to contribute to change. There's lots of different ways that I've done that. But in the end, there was one through line that linked all of the different experiences that I had from the very beginning of my career to being a playwright to what I'm doing now. And I think that if you can sort of hone in or map out like what your story is, tell that with confidence, understand sort of what the themes of your own life are, that could be a really good starting point to how you bridge into other types of stories.
Thank you for that. We've got a few questions I'm going to try to roll in together about psychological safety and emotional intelligence. And when you're planning events, and this is from Janice, do you think that that should be part of the curriculum taught to event industry professionals?
The the sort of the
About learning about psychological safety, both for, I think, event planners, because it's such a stressful
Yes.
role and so much going on and a lot being asked of people.
Yes, so that's a really sort of that's a controversial thing in the sense that when it comes to psychological safety, yes, I mean for the team throwing the event, making sure that they're set up to be successful, they're supported, they have the infrastructure they need to be successful. Yes, absolutely. When it comes to the events themselves, though, I find that it's actually good for it to have some edge and have some tension, and you kind of want to have that because that's important because that's also life and you want people, especially if you're dealing with really difficult ideas or controversial ideas or things that are really, really important, sometimes there will be some edge and people might be offended or they might come away with that being like, "Ooh, I'm not sure how I felt about that." So, but that's good. Like, I mean, my background is in theater. I'm a playwright. My every time we do theater, there are always trigger warnings on things that we will see. But in the end, they're trigger warnings on things like you'll see flashing lights or you'll see a gun go off, but they're not trigger warnings on the ideas you'll encounter. And I think that's something that I think is a good line to differentiate. It's always important that safety for the team, safety in the execution, but you want to make sure that there's still a platform for people to really engage with ideas in a meaningful way, especially if those ideas um, evoke all kinds of different types of feelings, because that's good.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. We might be able to squeeze one more in here. Nicolette is wondering about how do you suggest fostering community at more formal meeting events, such as like a conference or a symposium?
So that's really tough because sometimes I'll like for me, like, I will go to a conference and they'll try to force it on me. Like they'll be like, "Hey, here's the icebreaker. Turn to someone and have that be the worst moment of your life." And have like a weird icebreaker with them. Um, I think that in the end, like obviously, just sort of if you can, it's almost like over the course of the sort of broad user experience, just making sure that there are sort of sections or areas within the broad user experience that allow people to organically find each other, I think will be a really good way to do it. Um, and I think that that is sort of really that's a really simple way to do it because I find that sort of like forced connection is really uncomfortable and it actually ends up being quite a negative part of the overall experience.
Hmm. Got it. Yeah, it's a tough one to balance because you want to help people feel engaged with each other and connect with each other. And hopefully the content and the design of the event, it all opens up those opportunities.
There was a one of the stories I have is when I went to National Theater School. Uh, hopefully, no one from NTS sees this, but there was a one of the first things we did was there was a chorus class, and one of the first things that we did in the class was we had to introduce ourselves using clown gestures. And I if you've ever met me, I that's not me. So I'm we're all introducing ourselves using these clown gestures. I do it. I was so mortified. I like called my mom the, that night and I was like, I think I should quit this school. I don't think I'm going to be able to do clown and then jump rope for 3 years. But it was more about just another way to communicate. There was a comfort level that I needed to sort of break through. I did it. And it actually was probably one of the greatest classes I ever did in my life. And it sort of really informed just sort of like how I sort of move through life in general. It was incredibly beneficial. So if you start getting into clown, chorus work, mime, um, neutral mask, it's good. You should give it a shot.
Got it. Kind of stretch ourselves and open up ourselves to different ways
And
of,
then someone will do it and they'll message you, Chris, that was the worst moment of my life. Why did I do that? I'm like, yeah,
right.
it pushes you.
Yeah, yeah, and gives you some authentic stories and connections, right? So it
Yes.
was memorable, that's for sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jason, for this, and to our
Thank
audience
you.
for your questions and your engagement. Really appreciate it overall, and hope you found it insightful. And we welcome the opportunity to bring Jason to your event, either for a talk or, as mentioned, a great panel moderator for quite a range of topics, as you've seen the extent that Jason has. So we'd be happy to help. And just to let you know, we have more sessions coming up this fall, including with Ileana Oris Valiente on flourishing and the future of work, and Olympian Jennifer Botterill with her new book and topic, Why Not You? So hope you'll join us and enjoy the rest of the day. Take care.